Hey guys, I hope you are all doing well. The next chapter that I want to discuss with you from The Pursuit of God is titled Removing the Veil. In this chapter, Tozer makes it clear that God has made us for himself. No matter what reason or education may teach us, God has clearly made us for himself. In the Westminster Catechism, the very first statement is this: the question, what is the chief end of man? And the answer, man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. And so, when God has created us, He meant for us to live with Him and to draw life from His joy in us. Yet, because of our disobedience, we have fled from His presence by hiding ourselves from God, despite the irony that none could possibly escape from God's omnipresence. Therefore, God redeemed us through His only Son Christ so that He can bring us back to Him and to restore the broken relationship with us. In the Old Testament, before Christ came, God's people had to first enter the outer courtyard of the tabernacle to bring sacrifice to God so that they can receive atonement from Him, but they were prevented to enter into the inside of the tabernacle, the Holy of Holies, since the veil stood there to warn them of God's holiness. However, when Christ came, He tore the veil, which opened the way for every worshiper to come by the new and living way straight into the divine presence. This is not simply a doctrine to be held or to be remembered, but a life which is to be enjoyed every moment. And yet, despite such reality and despite the privilege that the veil has torn for us to enter into God's presence, we're still lingering outside of the presence of God. Though we have so much knowledge of God through the overwhelming volume of theological work out there, Tozer says that the world is perishing for lack of this knowledge, and church is famishing for want of his presence. The thing is, we cannot simply have what one philosopher calls an intellectual love. Instead, because God is spirit, our love for him has to be spiritual as well. And so the remedy is to enter into the presence, to suddenly become aware that we are in God and God is in us. Tozer says that this will lift us out of our pitiful narrowness and cause our hearts to be enlarged. But Tozer goes further and says that there is something more serious than the coldness of our hearts due to our intellectual love. Tozer says that there is a close woven veil of the self life which we never have truly acknowledged, of which we have been secretly ashamed, and which for these reasons we have never brought the judgment of the cross. Tozer, of course, is pointing out the sins that we have not been able to bring before God. But I also think that the things we could not bring before God are also problems or struggles that we have, but we haven't yet been able to bring before God. Ask yourself, ask yourselves what you could not bring before God. Perhaps because you were too ashamed to admit it, or because you probably thought that God may not understand you, so you thought that you couldn't bring it before God. But these are the things which is preventing you from entering into his presence, even though he has torn the veil so that you can enter into his presence. These are the things that have caused you to linger outside of his presence, wondering whether you should take the step or not so that you can enter into his presence. But remember this, that God has redeemed you through Christ, and then and that he wants to restore the broken relationship with you. One way or the other, God will urge you to come to him, to pursue after him, letting you know that the veil has torn which prevented you from entering into God's presence. So I encourage you to deepen your relationship with God by bringing whatever you weren't able to bring to him. And may you find peace in him and resolution and remedy, because He is constantly calling out to you. So have a good week, and I'll see you next time.